Money doesn't care about borders, governments, or GDP rankings. It flows to those who understand its language, regardless of the flag flying above their heads. You've been told that poverty is a cage, that if you're born in a struggling nation, your ceiling is someone else's floor. But here's what they don't tell you. Some of the wealthiest individuals on Earth didn't start in penthouses or trust funds. They started in places where running water was a luxury and electricity came in shifts. The question isn't whether a poor country can produce millionaires. The question is why you've been convinced it can't. Let me be direct with you. Poverty is real. Economic collapse is real. Political corruption is real. But none of these things have ever stopped someone who understood one fundamental truth. Value creation doesn't require permission from your government. I've seen it myself, not in theory, but in boardrooms, in market stalls, in conversations with people who built empires from dirt floors. The millionaires emerging from poor countries aren't anomalies. They're proof that the system you've been sold is incomplete. Take a moment and think about the narrative. A poor country, by definition, has low GDP, weak infrastructure, unstable currency, and limited access to capital. True. But it also has something else. Unmet needs. Massive, screaming, desperate needs. And where there's need, there's opportunity. The entrepreneurs who see this don't wait for their government to fix the economy. They become the economy. They identify what's missing: clean water, reliable transportation, affordable technology, efficient logistics, and they build the solution. While everyone else is complaining about the state of things, they're making millions solving the problems everyone else just talks about. I'll give you a real example. A friend of mine in Mexico started with nothing but a bicycle and a phone. He noticed that small businesses in his neighborhood couldn't afford delivery services. So he became one. He hired other cyclists. Within 3 years, he had a fleet of motorcycles. Within 6, he had vans and a tech platform. Today, his logistics company operates in 5 states, and he's worth 8 figures. The country didn't change. The economy didn't boom. He just stopped waiting for conditions to be perfect. Here's what most people miss. Poor countries often have less competition in emerging sectors. In wealthy nations, every market is saturated. Every niche has 20 competitors with venture capital and Stanford degrees. But in a developing economy, if you're the first person to offer reliable internet service or solar power solutions or mobile banking to rural areas, you're not just a business, you're a revolution. And revolutions make revolutionaries rich. Now let's talk about the political side, because this is where people get stuck. Yes, corruption exists. Yes, bureaucracy is a nightmare. Yes, your government might be more interested in lining pockets than building roads. But here's the cold truth. I learned managing businesses across unstable regions. You don't need the government to win. You just need to understand how to operate despite it. Millionaires in poor countries master the art of navigating broken systems. They know which permits matter and which don't. They build relationships. They find legal workarounds. They don't fight the current. They swim diagonally. If you're ready to step away from the crowd and make wiser financial decisions, subscribe. This channel is here to help you see money differently. The social aspect is even more interesting. In many poor countries, there's a culture of communal support, or communal burden, depending on how you look at it. When you start succeeding, everyone wants a piece. Family, friends, distant cousins you've never met. This is where most people fail. They either give everything away out of guilt, or they isolate themselves out of resentment. The ones who become millionaires, they learn to set boundaries while still giving strategically. They don't fund dependency, they fund opportunity. They don't hand out cash, they create jobs. I've been running businesses for 8 years, managing hundreds of employees, and I can tell you this. Entrepreneurship in a poor country is like playing chess while everyone else plays checkers. You're thinking 5 moves ahead because you have to. You can't rely on stable supply chains, so you build redundancy. You can't trust the banks, so you diversify holdings. You can't depend on infrastructure, so you create your own. This forces a level of strategic thinking that entrepreneurs in comfortable economies never develop. And that's your edge. Let me share something from my 15 years as a financial consultant. I've worked with clients in 3 countries, from people scraping together their first $1,000 to executives managing 9-figure portfolios. The ones who break through in difficult economies share one trait: They treat obstacles as filters, not walls. When everyone else sees a problem and quits, they see a problem and think, who's going to pay me to solve this? That shift in perspective is worth more than any degree or inheritance. Take the story of a woman I advised in a rural part of France. Yes, even in developed nations, poverty exists in pockets. She had no formal education, no capital, and lived in an area with 20% unemployment. But she noticed that elderly people in her town needed help with technology, phones, tablets, basic internet. She started offering lessons for €10 an hour. 5 years later, she runs a digital literacy nonprofit that's funded by corporate sponsors and government grants. She's not a billionaire, but she's a millionaire who started with nothing but observation and action. Here's where I ask something of you. Creating this content, researching, scripting, filming, editing, it takes my team and me significant time and resources. We do it because we believe valuable information should reach valuable people like you. If this is adding value to your life, if you're learning something that could genuinely change your financial trajectory, subscribe. Encourage this work. Let's build a community of people who see money for what it really is. A tool, not a trap. Now, back to the core question. Can a poor country have millionaires? Not only can it, it must. Because economic development doesn't trickle down from governments or international aid. It rises from individuals who refuse to accept their circumstances as their ceiling. Every poor country that has ever developed did so because entrepreneurs created wealth first, and infrastructure followed. Not the other way around. The millionaires in poor countries aren't lucky. They're not connected to corrupt officials. Well, some are, but that's not the point. The legitimate ones are masters of resourcefulness. They understand leverage. They know how to turn $50 into 500, then 5,000, then 50,000. They study markets. They read obsessively. Books, reports, case studies. I personally consume dozens of books a year, and the pattern is clear. Wealth builders in any economy share the same habits. They live below their means. They reinvest profits. They think long-term in a world obsessed with instant gratification. Technology has changed everything. A kid in rural India with a smartphone has access to the same information as a student at Harvard. The difference is what they do with it. I've seen developers in Mexico build apps that compete globally. I've seen content creators in the Philippines earn 6 figures serving international audiences. I've seen traders in Nigeria master forex markets better than Wall Street analysts. Geography is becoming less relevant every year. So yes, a poor country can absolutely have millionaires. It already does. Thousands of them. They're just not on the covers of magazines because their stories don't fit the narrative that poverty is permanent. Their existence is inconvenient to the charity industry, to the politicians who promised you salvation, to everyone who benefits from you believing you're stuck. Where are you watching this from? Drop your country in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. And if you found this valuable, check out the last video in the description. Let's keep this conversation going.